You think billionaires grind 24/7? You're wrong. They play more than you think, and that play makes them richer. What if I told you? The rich don't just work hard, they play even harder, not just for leisure, but to stay razor sharp, to stay powerful, to stay rich. Because billionaires know a secret. Fun is not a break from success. Fun is a strategy for success. And today, you'll see how they turn joy into wealth. Because billionaires understand something most of us were never taught. Fun isn't just for downtime. Fun is a fuel. Fun is a weapon. Fun keeps them rich and sharp. Welcome to Zestify Up, where we decode elite habits for your rise to the top. If you're building your first million or your first billion, this is your new edge. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Fun Paradox. Why the rich have more fun and more focus. It sounds backwards, doesn't it? People think billionaires grind 24/7. No sleep, no breaks, no laughter. But here's the truth. They protect their fun like a fortress. Elon Musk plays video games to sharpen decision-making. Richard Branson kitesurfs not for leisure, but to expand creativity. Warren Buffett plays the ukulele, not for likes, but to calm his brain and make better investment calls. Why? Because when you rise to the top, the battlefield isn't physical. It's mental clarity, emotional stamina, cognitive edge, and fun. Real, high-quality, immersive fun renews all three. And you wonder, how do they have time for this? Here's the truth. They don't have time because they're rich. They're rich because they make time for fun that sharpens them, not mindless fun, not dopamine-draining scrolls on a phone. They curate their fun. To curate fun means to deliberately choose experiences that bring joy, stimulate the brain, and build resilience. Not all fun is equal. Boring fun is watching 5 hours of reality TV. Billionaire fun is skiing through chaos, training martial arts, playing high-stakes games. Boring fun numbs you. Curated fun grows you. These activities aren't side hobbies. They are rituals. Rituals that sharpen instincts. Rituals that build tolerance to chaos. Rituals that keep their minds flexible. If your mind goes dull, your empire follows. Like I said, not all fun is equal though, and we'll show you what billionaire-level fun actually looks like, so watch till the end. Chapter 2. How the rich use fun to stay addicted to growth. Dopamine is your brain's feel-good hormone. It's what makes joy addictive. When you enjoy something, dopamine spikes, and your brain says, do more of that. That's why motivated work doesn't feel like work. It drives you to take action, like an internal cheerleader. With low dopamine, you feel sluggish. With balanced dopamine, you're focused, driven, unstoppable. Most people chase dopamine through distractions, TikTok, junk food, gossip, impulse shopping. But billionaires, they intentionally choose and curate fun that enhances dopamine sustainably. Fun that feeds their growth. Jeff Bezos once said, stress comes from not taking action. So, he schedules adventurous vacations with structured risk. Bezos once spent weeks retrieving NASA rocket boosters such as Apollo 11's F1 engines from the ocean floor. That's not luxury. That's controlled exposure to intensity. Mark Cuban, billionaire and Shark Tank investor, plays intense games of competitive basketball every week. Why? Because competition plus joy equals alpha mindset. They use fun to simulate pressure, without the business consequences. So when the real pressure comes, they're already trained, calm, sharp, hungry. Curated fun boosts dopamine, not in a crash and burn way like sugar or scrolling, but in a steady, powerful way that fuels momentum. That's why billionaires stay addicted to progress. Their joy isn't random, it's strategic. It's a system, a ritual, one that rewires the brain for adaptability. So when business brings pressure, and it will, they don't flinch. They stay flexible under fire, calm in chaos, sharp when others spiral. Think of it this way. The rich get high on growth, not junk. So ditch the sugar hits. Build joy loops that last. Want to adopt curated fun like the billionaires? Start small. Replace mindless scrolling with activities that challenge and excite you. Here's your challenge. Pick one fun activity this week that stretches your comfort zone. With Zestify Up, you don't need to guess what works. We curate high-performance rituals, dopamine-boosting routines, and yes, even fun ideas that build your edge. Zestify Up isn't a tool, it's your unfair advantage. Chapter 3. Why billionaires use joy to build powerful networks. You know what billionaires don't do? Sit in boring meetings with boring people. They bond over skiing in Aspen. They bond over golf in Pebble Beach, poker in Vegas, or yachting in Monaco. These environments strip away masks. You see how someone handles loss, risk, laughter, ego. Fun reveals character. And billionaires use fun to filter their circle. Here's the secret sauce to billionaire relationships. Meetings are out. Moments are in. You don't build trust over spreadsheets. You build it over campfires, card games, and jet skis. Because joy reveals character. When people play, masks drop. You see if they sulk when they lose, if they gloat when they win, if they help others or hog the ball. That's how billionaires choose business partners. Not through LinkedIn filters, but life filters. Richard Branson invites people on adventures to assess alignment. Oprah builds bridges through shared joy, not shared stress. And do you really think Elon and Larry Page connected over a cold email? No, they flew kites. They raced Teslas. They talked while playing. That's how trust is built. That's how ideas are exchanged. That's how deals worth billions are born. Here's your key takeaway. Want to upgrade your network? Don't just schedule meetings, schedule experiences, and the right people will reveal themselves. Want deeper working partnerships? Stop doing coffee chats. Start doing cliff jumps. Okay, maybe start with go-karts, but you get the point. Shared joy equals strong bonds. Shared boredom equals slow deaths. Your tribe is shaped by what you invite them into. Chapter 4. Why the rich gamify everything, using fun to stay obsessed with the mission. The average worker sees tasks, the billionaire sees levels. Billionaires gamify their mission, and that's why they never burn out. They turn investments into points, fitness into scorecards. Every email, a move on the board. Here's something wild. Most billionaires treat business like a video game. They don't think of money as survival. They think of it as score. And what makes games addictive? Clear goals, instant feedback, leveling up. Tony Robbins turns every speaking tour into a points-based system with his team. Every crowd reaction equals XP. Every city equals a boss battle. Every donation equals bonus loot. Ray Dalio, a billionaire hedge fund investor, said his biggest joy is solving puzzles, and he made Bridgewater operate like a logic game. Want to do this in your own life? Start with your habit tracker. Make progress a game. With rules, levels, rewards, challenges. And every day will feel like you're playing your way to success. Because when life becomes winnable, it becomes addictive. Fun isn't distraction, it's data. It tells you what lights you up, so you can double down. If this hits different, pause and drop a comment. Fun is my fuel. Let's see how many future billionaires are watching. Chapter 5. Play rewires the brain. Why fun is cognitive fuel for high performers. Let's geek out for a second. Not boring science. Brain magic. When you laugh, your memory improves. When you dance, you build resilience. Here's the neuroscience, once more. When you play, your brain lights up. Neural pathways reconnect. Problem solving improves. Mood stabilizes. Focus intensifies. That's why Bill Gates plays bridge. That's why Mark Zuckerberg learned jiu-jitsu and martial arts. It's not for Instagram, it's brain training, with joy. Even Steve Jobs was obsessed with calligraphy. Was that productive? On the surface, no. But it led to Apple's obsession with design. Fun becomes profit when it rewires your thinking. And here's the truth most hustle culture ignores. Burnout isn't caused by hard work. It's caused by working without joy. Let's say it again like a drumbeat. Burnout isn't caused by hard work. It's caused by working without joy. Want to stay sharp for decades? Make room for joy. Not random pleasure, but curated play that fuels who you're becoming. Chapter 6. How joy attracts wealth like a magnet. Fun is the new power. Okay, now breathe. Because here's the wild, wonderful truth. Your life's purpose is joy. Not survival, not stress, not endless meetings about meetings. Joy is the purpose. Money is the byproduct. This is where we go spiritual. Ever notice how the ultra-rich have a certain lightness about them? They laugh more, they smile with ease, they radiate fun. It's not arrogance, it's energetic alignment. They've learned that joy attracts resources. Joy makes them magnetic, because people love working with someone who carries peace and power. Fun isn't frivolous, it's energetic leverage. Your vibe isn't just a mood, it's a message to the world, saying, I am safe, I am successful, and I am ready for more. Zestify Up helps you cultivate that vibe daily, with mindset shifts, rituals, even soundtracks to elevate your frequency. It's not just about what you do, it's about how you feel while doing it. If your life feels heavy, it's not your fault. You were taught the grind. But now it's time to choose the glow. You don't need to suffer your way to success. You don't need to collapse your nervous system to pay rent. You need to light up, laugh, leap, lead. That's how billionaires win. With joy as jet fuel, with curiosity as compass, with energy as empire. Listen closely. We've been taught to suppress joy until the work is done. But billionaires flipped the formula. They made fun the fuel. They made joy the strategy. They made energy the asset. If you want to rise like them, you must learn to play like them. This isn't about being irresponsible. It's about being intelligent. Your brain needs lightness. Your body needs rhythm. Your soul needs laughter. So go. Design fun into your life. Curate your joy. Play like your wealth depends on it, because it does. And if you're ready to build that billionaire energy from the inside out, Zestify Up is your daily system, your rituals, your high-performance habits, your curated joy, all in one place. Hit subscribe. Rewatch this every time you forget how powerful joy can be. And share it with one person who's stuck in the grind. They need this. If this video fired you up, don't just keep it in your head. We're waiting to hear from you. Seriously, drop a comment with one fun habit you're adding this week. Something bold, weird, or wildly joyful. Go-karts, improv, boxing, hiking without your phone. Say it. Because the people who declare their joy are the ones who actually chase it. And we read every single comment. This is your moment to cheer up out loud. And let joy sharpen you. Let fun fund you. Let your energy make you unforgettable. Because your fun is your fortune. And your life was never meant to be boring.